Good morning, half a day. As the author of Resolution 210-36 COR, I'm calling this virtual public hearing to order. It is now 9:02 a.m. on Wednesday, November 24th, 2021. Notice of this morning's virtual hearing was provided via email to senators, stakeholders, and local media on November 17th, 2021 for the 5-day notice, and November 22nd, 2021 for the 48-hour notice, thus meeting the requirements of open government law. I'd like to acknowledge my colleague who has joined me here today, Senator Telo Taitague. The purpose of this virtual hearing is to receive testimony on Resolution 210-36 COR, sponsored by myself, Senator Sabina Flores Perez, co-sponsored by Speaker Therese M. Terlaje, Senator Telo T. Taitague, and Senator Joanne Brown. It's relative to reaffirming Guam's right to safeguard cultural resources and to protect ocean ecosystems from environmental harm and exploitative industry interests through a moratorium on seabed mining to ensure the health of Guam's people. So the rules of conduct for this virtual hearing are as follows. The host of this hearing will mute all participants until called upon by the chair. Virtual background should not be utilized during the public hearing, and participants' face must be visible at all times. When called to speak, please ensure that you're unmuted and that you're speaking into your microphone. Members of the committee wishing to speak may indicate their desire to the chair through their in-app chat feature. The order of questioning will begin with the chairperson, followed by senators. Each senator will be allowed to pose questions to individuals testifying. Individuals testifying shall first be recognized by the chair before speaking and shall state their name for record-keeping purposes. Questions and testimony shall be confined to the substance or nature of the agenda. Personal inference as to the character or motive of any senator or any individual testifying is not permitted. And now to begin our agenda, Resolution 210-36, sponsored by myself, Senator Sabina Flores Perez, co-sponsored by Speaker Therese M. Terlaje, Senator Telo T. Taitague, and Senator Joanne Brown, relative to reaffirming Guam's right to safeguard cultural resources and to protect ocean ecosystems from environmental harm and exploitative industry interests through a moratorium on seabed mining to ensure the health of Guam's people. So just a brief introduction. Resolution 210 was created to raise awareness of the large-scale impacts of deep seabed mining to our oceans that has sustained and nurtured our people and culture throughout the centuries. As oceanic people, it is part of our shared responsibility to protect this precious and sacred resource. Resolution 210 is also a call to action for the international community to support the common goal of protecting our oceans because the threat of deep sea mining is imminent with the push to fast-track regulations that would open the door to granting commercial licenses as soon as 2023. The passage of this resolution is of utmost priority and urgency because the International Seabed Authority, the governing body of the open seas under the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, convenes on December 6th to potentially decide on opening a Pandora's box of environmental impacts, which could include the following: species extinction and loss of biodiversity, sediment plumes and tailings, having the potential to pollute the entire water column, the uptake of heavy metals and toxins by marine animals, including commercial fisheries, the disturbance of marine mammals from constant noise and light in the water, the risk of oil spills and accidents from increased vessel surface traffic, the destruction of coral reefs through increased acidity of water, the potential for induced seismic activity, and increased carbon emissions. Our ocean stores 50 times as much CO2 as the atmosphere. It is foreseeable that the increased level of activity and disturbance could impair the ability of our oceans to store carbon dioxide, thus exacerbating global climate change and potentially counteracting the current international efforts to stem any further increase in surface temperatures. Exploratory mining has already impacted Pacific Island nations. In the case of Tonga, the existing deep-sea mining exploration licenses have covered traditional fishing grounds and have already disturbed both commercial and local fishing operations simply from the effects of increased numbers of large vessels in the water. And these vessels have reportedly changed fish patterns, forcing fishermen to make large detours to find new fishing grounds, creating additional burdens on an already stressed industry. In Papua New Guinea, islanders in New Ireland and East New Britain have already experienced negative impacts from exploratory mining and drilling occurring 30 to 50 kilometers from their communities, including reports of effects on shark calling and on other fisheries and cultural customs with resultant impacts on tourism. Additionally, Papua New Guinea government is not only unlikely to profit from the corporation that was granted the license, but the government has taken a loan and further increased its debt in order to pay this corporation pay the corporation $118 million for 15% equity stake in the project. So deep sea mining, which is driven by increasing demand of metals used in technological products, could be averted by increasing investment in a circular economy that includes better design of our products to facilitate recycling and reuse. Large corporations such as Google, Samsung, BMW, and Volvo have pledged to sustainable sourcing of their materials and the prohibition of the use of materials obtained from deep seabed mining. Resolution 210 calls for a moratorium on deep sea mining by the International Seabed Authority unless and until rigorous and transparent impact assessments have been conducted on the environmental, social, cultural, economic risks, until precautionary principle and ecosystem approach is implemented, until policies to ensure the responsible production and use of metals, such as the reduction of the demand for primary metals, a transformation to a resource-efficient circular economy, and responsible terrestrial mining practices have been developed and implemented, until public consultation mechanisms have been incorporated into all decision-making processes related to deep sea mining, ensuring effective management, allowing for independent review, and where relevant, that free, prior, and informed consent of Indigenous peoples is respected and consent from potentially affected communities is achieved. And to promote the reform of the International Seabed Authority to ensure transparent, accountable, inclusive, effective, environmentally responsible decision-making and regulation. So those are my introductory remarks. And now I'd like to invite those that have come here to testify. So I would like to recognize Joni Kerr from Guam Community College. Welcome, Joni.
Buenas and Hafaday. Thank you so much for alerting us to this issue, Senator Perez. And I commend the other senators for supporting and bringing forth this resolution. I am an associate professor at Guam Community College, and I do teach introductory to marine biology. So this issue kind of hits close to the heart. I'm also representing the Guam Community College Eco Warriors and the organization Protehi Latektan Save Ratidian. Both organizations are deeply committed to the protection of Guahan's natural resources and support Resolution 210-36 that calls for a moratorium on deep sea mining. So rather than repeat the points of your very eloquent and detailed resolution, I submit another story about the deep sea, a story that hits very close to home and illustrates the need to consider the importance of the ocean to the survival and well-being of all life on Earth. In 1960, when the first humans, Swiss oceanographer Jacques Piccard and a US Navy Lieutenant Don Walsh landed on the bottom of the Mariana Trench, they saw fish. The significance of that finding was that it provided evidence that life existed at those extreme depths, but more specifically, that enough oxygen was available to support fish in the deep sea. Years later, the mechanism by which oxygen is delivered was discovered to be ocean currents that run both cold and deep and warm and shallow throughout all the Earth's ocean basins. These thermohaline currents sink to great depths by being cold and dense in areas called downwellings. And as the currents mix with the warmer water, they rise to the surface in areas called upwellings, and where they run warm and shallow. So this network of thermohaline currents is often called the global or Great Ocean Conveyor Belt. And they circulate around the globe, and they are responsible, again, for delivering oxygen to the deep, carrying nutrients to the surface to support phytoplankton and the upper trophic levels, and regulating global temperatures. So when Piccard and Walsh saw that fish, they understood that the deep sea, the atmosphere, and the land We're not static, separate entities, but we're absolutely connected. So at that time, nuclear weapons testing and energy were demanding a waste disposal plan. And funny, but one option was to sink the waste into the deepest part of the ocean, the Mariana Trench. So seeing that one fish made it clear that disposing nuclear waste into the trench was not an option. Considering the worst case scenario, containers leaking dangerous radioactive waste that get transported throughout the ocean, contaminating marine life all the way up and through the food web to humans, no, this was definitely not an option. And so enter today deep sea mining, a process that has neither been proven safe nor harmless to the environment. But if we examine terrestrial or land-based mining practices, deep sea mining takes on a much dimmer prospect. Deep sea mining for elements like manganese, cobalt, nickel promises to be just as messy and destructive as the terrestrial mining counterpart, if not more so. In Madang province, Papua New Guinea, waste tailings from the nickel and cobalt extraction plant called Ramu Naiko has been dumped into the surrounding ocean. This practice has a name or a phrase. It's called deep sea tailings disposal, or DSTD, and has been going on for years. It did gain international attention in August of 2019 when a 200,000 ton crimson spill of mine tailings occurred and resulted in dead fish washing ashore and the deaths of a baby dolphin and possibly a man who may have succumbed to the deadly cocktail of mining waste. A 2019 article from the Journal of Sustainable Mining describes how extraction of cobalt releases radioactive emissions, cancer-causing particles, and particles which may cause vision problems, vomiting and nausea, heart problems, and thyroid damage, and on and on. But then once in the environment, cobalt particles stay there forever. According to a Washington Post article and photo essay, the Congo produces about 60% of the world's supply of cobalt. The poorest people are hired to work in the mines and often do so without using protective gear like gloves or masks. Mining waste contaminates streams and rivers, and in that area, miscarriages, premature births, and infants with deformities have been linked to mothers and fathers who worked in the mines. So clearly, these three examples provide evidence that deep sea mining would entail a multitude of dangerous outcomes for the ocean, marine life, and humans. Pacific Island nations must unite to stop deep sea mining before it happens. And the senator did mention employing the precautionary principle. This is not just a NIMBY, not in my backyard issue. The ocean is our front, side, and backyard. And we rely on it for food, cultural practices, and economies of fishing, recreation, and tourism. And finally, if we truly understand Picard and Walsh's story, deep sea mining poses a real threat to all life on Earth. Sijus Ma'asi.
Masi, Joni, for that beautiful testimony and insight. So thank you. I'd like now to recognize Danny Foltz from Earth Justice. She's a legal counsel. Welcome, Danny.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and thank you, Professor Kerr, for that wonderful testimony. Thank you for the opportunity to address this esteemed body. My name is Andrea Foltz. I'm here on behalf of Earth Justice in support of Resolution 210-36, in light of the severe risks that deep seabed mining poses to ocean health, essential climate functions, and human rights. We strongly support a moratorium on this high-risk activity unless and until we have enough information to safely conduct it. An overview of deep seabed mining helps explain why its risks are just so immense and unacceptable. Deep seabed mining refers to extracting mineral deposits from the seafloor using a range of methods: drilling, stripping, or cutting substrate. The commonly targeted resources are seafloor massive sulfides, polymetallic nodules, or cobalt-rich crusts. No commercial scale mining has occurred on the high seas, but limited exploratory mining has been conducted in some national waters. The obstacles to commercial scale mining so far include lack of technical capability, lack of understanding of deep sea ecosystems, and lack of authority from the International Seabed Authority, the ISA, the autonomous body charged with implementing the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea and governing mining in areas beyond national jurisdiction. The ISA is currently developing a mining code to regulate high seas exploitation of marine minerals, but the code is far from finished and important questions remain around liability, environmental risk, sharing of costs and benefits, and more. The country of Nauru has demanded that the ISA finalize its exploitation regulations by June of 2023, but it remains unclear how the ISA will answer Nauru's request while fulfilling its duties of ensuring that deep sea mining benefit all of humankind and preventing serious harm to deep sea ecosystems. The risks of deep sea mining, the lack of transparency of contractors and sponsoring states under current regulations, and the existence of sustainable alternatives for sourcing minerals, Earth Justice supports a moratorium on deep seabed mining to safeguard the most valuable resources on our planet, our ocean and our climate. Studies have identified a range of potential impacts to both the area mined and to distant areas reached by ocean currents. Impacts to mined areas could include permanent loss of biodiversity from removal of important habitat, the mined polymetallic nodules themselves, and damage to the seafloor. Polymetallic nodules grow extremely slowly at an estimated rate of several millimeters every million years. Mining the nodules would thus impact deep sea ecosystems for millennia by removing the habitat that they provide and the immobile organisms that grow on them, such as sponges and corals. These organisms provide habitat for mobile species that serve as food source for an even larger group. Many of these species have not been studied, and scientists warn that their loss would be unavoidable were deep seabed mining to proceed. Impacts of deep seabed mining beyond the area mined could include sediment plumes generated by mining vehicles and discharge of unwanted material. And with these plumes come tailings of the toxic chemicals and heavy metals that we've already heard about today that can bioaccumulate through food chains and contaminate entire water columns. Deep sea ecosystems in the Pacific provide essential services for many highly migratory species, including whales, turtles, tunas, and swordfish. Given the far depths and distances that these species travel, contamination anywhere in the water column would likely impact them. A recent study on the impacts of plumes of deep sea fisheries warned that it would be extremely important to closely monitor effects of mining on fisheries as soon as extraction begins and well before it reaches industrial scale. However, it's uncertain how rigorous this requirement would be under ISA exploitation regulations and how it would be enforced to effectively prevent harm to important deep sea fisheries. Discharged metals can remain in the columns even longer than sediment, creating the risk of metals entering the human food chain through the mesopelagic ecosystems. No public information exists on the potential human health impacts of metal bioaccumulation from seabed mining plumes. Given the importance of seafood to Pacific Islanders for consumption, culture, and commerce, the significant knowledge gap makes it impossible to regulate deep seabed mining in a way that protects human rights and livelihoods. Finally, deep seabed mining poses grave climate risks, including the release of sequestered carbon and methane. The deep sea plays an important role in global carbon cycle by regulating atmospheric CO2 levels and an important role in sequestering methane, a greenhouse gas 25 times more potent than CO2. It's unclear how mining will impact these essential functions, but it's estimated there will be at least some reduction in carbon and methane uptake. As countries around the world work to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions and prevent the worst effects of climate change, it is unjustifiable to risk impairing one of the most important mechanisms we have for regulating these greenhouse gases. Scientists consider it impossible to fully avoid the impacts of nodule mining, given the expense, the services of deep sea ecosystems, and the limited information we have on deep sea ecology. For these same reasons, scientists warn that it would be impossible to conduct deep seabed mining without producing a net loss of biodiversity, even if limited offsets were feasible. Impacts on human communities would also be inevitable. In 2009, Nautilus Minerals contracted with Papua New Guinea for exploratory mining and claimed that there would be no human impacts and a benefit to the country. The result, however, was a total failure, in the words of then Prime Minister James Marape, leaving Papua New Guinea with $157 million in debt and environmental damage. Worldwide support, however, is growing for a moratorium on mining until, among other things, its risks are comprehensible and preventable. Since 2011, the Deep Sea Mining Campaign has worked to oppose deep seabed mining with partners across the Pacific and around the world. Leading marine scientists have issued a statement calling for a pause on deep seabed mining until sufficient and robust scientific information has been obtained to make informed decisions as to whether deep seabed mining can be authorized without significant damage to the marine environment, and if so, under what conditions. Governments have also voiced their support for a moratorium. The European Parliament has called on European states to support a moratorium, at least until the conclusion of the UN Decade of Ocean Science in 2030, as have the prime ministers of Fiji, Vanuatu, and Papua New Guinea. This September at the IUCN World Conservation Congress, there was a call for a moratorium until important criteria are met for environmental assessments, public consultation, adherence to legal principles, and transparent and accountable governance by the ISA. Fortunately, we don't have to mine the deep seabed. There's no reason to take on the attendant risks, of which I've only mentioned a few today. We can meet this demand for important minerals sustainably by recycling, reusing, and extending the life of materials and products we already have. We can enact market policies that facilitate local and sustainable sourcing and invest in a circular economy that reduces the need for raw materials and creates clean energy jobs in the recycling sector. As of 2021, commitments have been made by major technology, electronics, and car companies not to source materials from deep seabed mining, and these include Google, Samsung, BMW, Volvo, and Microsoft, underscoring both the environmental and the economic feasibility of non-seabed mining alternatives for sourcing metals. Mining anywhere in the Pacific would jeopardize all Pacific communities, as the impacts would be transboundary, with migratory species and interconnected oceans transporting the effects far and wide. It is also important to consider the existing environmental and climate stressors bearing upon Pacific Island states that could amplify the impacts of deep seabed mining, including extreme weather events, sea level rise, ocean acidification, and coral bleaching. Deep seabed mining would likely produce a net loss for both the Pacific Island region and our entire planet under current conditions. The scale of loss could be enormous and its duration permanent. We cannot gamble with the fate of our ocean and climate and the infinite services they provide when less risky means exist for supplying the materials we need. Earth Justice strongly supports Resolution 210-36, and we thank you for your time and consideration.
Danny, for all your work. I know there's a lot of movement happening nationally, and Earth Justice is working towards that. And thank you for all your hard work in that realm, and for participating today, and providing the testimony that you have. All right, so now I'd like to recognize my colleague, Senator Joanne Brown, has joined us here today. I would like to now recognize former Senator Hope Cristobal to provide testimony on Resolution 210.
Senator. Can you see me? Okay. Manana Sidzu Senadora Sabina Flores Perez Gehelu I Comiteha. Hagu Senadora Kikentus imina 36 na legislatura si Speaker Therese Terlaje. Hagu Senadora Joanne Brown. Zan hagu Senadora Telo Taitague. Toru hamzu no imembro gwini na legislaturang guahan pagu. Biba toru hamzu na maguf na haaning. Guahusi Hope Alvarez Cristobal, tauto tamuning tom humzo, matuzo pago gwini na inekung publiko por resolution numero 210 y 36, Committee on Rules, huso popoti este na resolution za hu abibiba hamzo na in recognisa zan in afifit ma I diretso ni tauto tono guahan para ta protehi I ecosisteman itasi kontra ifinakay ni naalamin danyaw zan dinistrosan ni urizan tosi no siyempre adzusihan na interes business pat sino iman punyeta na para manzama gifondo ni tasi para mamina para umatsuli para inaprobetsaniha I industria in lugar di umarespeta zan umaaligaw iminaulik salud itaw Guam. Inahasuzo tatigi 23 na legislaturang guahan, and I who introduce I Bill 66, give the legislative session that, and I'll switch to English. This bill in 1995 became Public Law 23-17 for the adoption of an act adopting the regime of the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea with respect to Guam's exclusive economic zone and other rights and responsibilities contained therein by amending subsection A of 1 GCA, section 402, repealing and reenacting subsections B and C of 1 GCA, section 402, and adding a new 5 GCA, section 9107.1. Because Guam continues to remain on the UN list of non-self-governing territories and remains an unincorporated territory under US law, both statutes inherently are not self-governing, and in this regard, as a territory, Guam has a particular personality under international law. Concomitant to this personality are certain rights, including the protection of natural resources from external exploitation and the development of natural resources for the benefit, well-being, and development of the people of the territory. We recognized then in 1983, the US had inappropriately attempted to lay claim to Guam's EEZ. However, by July 1994, the US signed the UNCLOS without reservation. The UNCLOS governs all aspects of ocean space, including delimitations on environmental control, scientific research, economic and commercial activities, technology, and the settlement of disputes relating to ocean matters. With respect to territories that are not self-governing, the UNCLOS declares that in the case of a territory whose people have not attained full independence or other self-governing status recognized by the United Nations, or a territory under colonial domination, provisions concerning rights and interests under the convention shall be implemented for the benefit of the people of the territory with a view to promoting their well-being and development. The final act of the UNCLOS, Annex 1, Resolution 3. Emphasis are added. Madam Chair, Honorable Senators, Speaker Terlaje, and a co-sponsor, Senator Joanne Brown, at that time in 1995. This body, the Guam Legislature, representing the people of Guam, it is this body that is best suited and is vested with the rights to implement the necessary ocean policies which will promote the well-being and development of the people of Guam. I highly encourage your colleagues as well to support this resolution. Moreover, I appeal to all 36 Guam legislature senators to consider adopting this resolution as a legislative resolution rather than a rules committee resolution to affirm the desire and the will of the people of Guam to protect our resources that today is viewed as resources to be diverted and co-opted by war industries, mining industries, representing powerful, rich nations. I will end this short testimony of mine, but I would like to add that just this morning, about an hour ago, I received the United Nations Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights report regarding their visit to Guam and their mission to the United States. I have provided that in the chat, and you can download documents about 33 pages long. I would suggest as well that the UNC24, as rather the fourth committee, receive a copy of this resolution or anything, any work that your 36 legislature does pertaining to and related to ensuring the rights, the human rights of the people of Guam to their resources. Dankla na si Zeus Masi, Senator Flores, Perez, for your forward thinking and your support for the people's rights. Si Zeus Masi.
Dankla na si Zeus Masi, Senator Cristobo. That was very, very informative, and thank you for reaffirming our human rights to self-determination.
That was over 25 years ago that Guam adopted our own 200-mile EEZ.
Okay, great. Thank you. We'll definitely reaffirm that too as well. Masi. I'd like to now recognize Maneka Flores from Proteji La Texan, Sabitinian.
Hafide, Senator Flores Perez, Senator Taitague, Senator Brown, and I just really want to say something very brief. First, I really want to thank, Sina Antihope Cristobal for all of her incredible work. And, we really can't say enough about how much she's dedicated her whole life, really, to protecting our resources. And I also just want to thank Joni Kerr, one of our board members who presented the official testimony for Taitague Texan earlier. And I don't want to be too repetitive. They both, to the testimony that's been provided, but I also want to thank Andrea Foltz from Earth Justice for being here. Such compelling testimony from all three, really underscoring the harm and the many kinds of harm, the many impacts on future generations, not just here in Guam, but all over the world, all over the Pacific. And so I don't really want to be too repetitive, and I don't really have much to add to the very incredible testimony, but I just need to say that I'm a member of Taitague Texan Saber Tidian, and I'm also a member of Ihagit Familao in Guam, which is an Indigenous Chamorro women's organization. And I just feel compelled to be here today because of the gravity of the situation regarding the seabed mining and the catastrophic impacts it will have to the very survival of humanity on this planet, and to the planet, to our mother, to our creator, to our living, to our, we come from we all feel, we're all here because we love Guam. We're all here because we feel so connected to this place and to the ocean that surrounds us and gives us life-sustaining resources every single day. And it's hard to imagine that such destructive technologies, these industries, these extractive industries, which just exacerbate all of our challenges for climate change, all of the existing damage that's been done, but also just really make us so vulnerable, all of us so vulnerable to climate change, to survival, to our lifeways, everything depends on this. And so I just feel so compelled to be here today, just to support the testimonies that have been stated today, but also, and to stand in support of, Senator Sabina Flores Perez in Resolution 210-36. So thank you so much. Sizos Masi.
Thank you so much, Monica, for being here today and for your support. It means a lot. So I believe we have another member from Taitague Texan, Maria Hernandez. If you would like to provide any testimony at this time. Good morning, Maria.
Yes, buenas tardes, Hamzu. I'm just out and about, but yes, I read through Joni's testimony, and I do not want, again, to be repetitive. I just am here to provide support and wanted to listen in, and I'm just so grateful for everybody coming forward today to talk about this very important issue. I think it's something that we need to be vehemently against. And yeah, I guess I just want to come on to, again, I'm compelled, like Monica, to say that we're against anything that would harm our land, our environment, considering all of, the toxicity and all of the environmental issues we're already dealing with. We do not want to add to that. So thank you so much, Senator Perez. Thank you so much to all of our lawmakers who are standing behind this very important legislation. Thank you.
Sizos Masi, Maria, for your testimony and for being here today and your support. It's greatly appreciated. Okay, so I'd like to open the floor to my colleagues if they have any comments or questions to those that have testified. Senator Telo Taitague.
Sizos Masi, Madam Chair, for the opportunity, and most especially for the opportunity to be a co-sponsor of this resolution. I remember a while ago in the 30th Guam legislature when they even had a moratorium on an area up in the northern part of the CNMI, which sparked a lot of interest, especially to our fishermen, and the inability to go up in that area like a park in the ocean. But it was found out later, the intention really was to save that area for mining, and that the resources underneath the ocean was what was most important than anything else in protecting our environment. So I want to continue this effort on ensuring that our oceans are protected. I mean, the information that was provided today, thank you so much to everyone who's here, Danny and Joni, as well as Hope, especially Hope for that information on Public Law 23-17, in which you did mention Senator Joanne Brown. I think when she first came into the legislature, this was something that they worked on. And I put it up on my screen to start looking at it, and I intend to read the whole entire public law to get an understanding of what was trying to be done in the past. But I think what's more important is what we're going to do in the future, and how we're going to stand up and speak out about this issue and bring awareness to our community. This is a great start, what we're doing here today, but we need to keep forward and keep moving forward with regards to outreach programs, awareness. And one of the things I'd like to congratulate with Maria Hernandez and the Protecti Letetzen group on their ability to provide scholarships to individuals to teach them on the environment and the importance of fighting for equal rights and justice for our environment. So I'd like to thank them for all they're doing as well. But again, Madam Chair, the work and extent that you did on this resolution and the research, I commend you. And again, thank you for the honor of being a co-sponsor, and know that I will continue the fight. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone who came to testify.
Just Masi, Senator Taitague, for your support and for co-sponsoring this resolution. So I'd like to now recognize Senator Joanne Brown, who's also a co-sponsor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and certainly the opportunity to listen to the testimony that's been provided by members of our community with regards to Resolution 210. I have no questions at all for anyone who has provided their testimony. I think we all share the concerns that they've raised, and certainly concerns we've had for quite some time and for many years. Gosh, 25 years, that's a long time ago. Hopefully we're not dating ourselves too much, but I think we realize as time goes on, and we do have to live in the world that we have, and we have to manage the resources that we have. Obviously we need resources to live and to grow and to build, but at the same time we need to balance that with protecting our resources, and particularly our ocean resources. I mean, that's been a dumping ground for so many years. And I think we need to be mindful of what impacts we have and how much and to what degree are we going to harm our earth. So I'm definitely an advocate and supporter of your initiative with regards to this resolution, and will continue to be so. So thank you everyone who's come to relay their feelings, their thoughts, their convictions with regards to this issue, and certainly wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. And with that, Madam Chair, I have no further comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Joanne Brown. Senator Taitague, you have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a correction. I've been up early this morning. It was not moratorium, but it's a memorial national marine monument that they were putting together in that area in the northern part of the Northern Marianas. So just wanted to make that correction. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. And I want to thank everybody that has come here today to testify. It was very rich testimony. And, it takes, what is it? The saying is, it takes a small community to make change in the world. And I'm paraphrasing that, but we're really thankful for everybody here who has testified. And we do intend to get this resolution sent and then passed, or, sent to the body for vote as soon as possible, because December 6th is the time when the International Seabed Authority could potentially make a ruling. And so it is of utmost urgency and priority that this resolution be supported and passed by the Guam legislature. So I want to thank Danny for all your support and the hard work that Earth Justice has done in providing information on this resolution, as well as organizing nationally and internationally. And we wish all the success behind that. And, being that we are on the front lines, Pacific Islanders are on the front lines of global climate change. And now we're on the front lines of this very damaging industry, seabed mining. And it's so important to get ahead of this right now because we don't know the full effects of the environmental impacts, but we already see the impacts that are occurring with just the exploratory licenses. And it's so important to prevent damage, irreparable damage to very delicate ecosystems in our deep oceans. And we don't have to rely on these resources. We just need to make sure that we are reusing what we have. We only have one Earth, but we're exploiting it. We're exploiting 6 Earths at the rate that we're going. So it's not sustainable. And I think as Indigenous peoples, we have practiced sustainability for over 3,000 years. And we need to correct this imbalance that is occurring. And it's going to take each one of us to do this, to make these small changes that can have greater collective positive effects. And so I want to thank everyone here today. I know there's some students listening in, so I do hope that we have inspired our new generation of stewards. And so thank you for all your supports and for your presence here today. Masi. And so now, being that there are no other testimonies at this time, I'd like to now adjourn this virtual public hearing. The time is now 9:43 a.m. Thank you and have a great Thanksgiving. Masi.